Welcome back to Bethy Marie. Thank you for joining me again in my kitchen. Today we are going to be making cowboy quiche. This is a recipe that I came across several years ago, one of my favorites. It's a recipe by the Pioneer Woman, also known as Ree Drummond. And I love it, my family loves it, and I'm going to share it with you, and I hope you love it as well. The recipe will be in the video description, so you can take a look at that if you want to make it yourselves. Today I'm going to start off by showing you how to roll a pie crust. For this recipe you can use a store-bought pie crust, a homemade pie crust, whatever you like. This is one that I made and I'm going to show you how to roll it out. Okay, so the countertop is well floured. The ball of dough is lightly floured. My rolling pin has a little flour on it. The idea is that it won't stick. And so I'm just going to put some pressure on it, kind of roll it around a little bit, move it around, and I'm just going to roll it out in a circle large enough to fit the size of my pie plate. It's good to work with cold pie crust because the shortening or butter that's inside of your crust will work better and produce a flakier pie crust if it hasn't melted before it goes into the oven. So cold crust is what you're aiming for. My favorite method of putting pie crust into a pie plate is to roll up the crust onto the rolling pin just a little bit, lift, place the pie plate under the crust and drop it in, and then you can kind of wiggle it around and center it a little bit as needed to get it set in your pie plate. Now it's going to hang over the edges a little bit, and that's okay. You just need to basically trim it with a knife. I'm just taking off the big long chunks if there are any. And then I'm going to just sort of fold it over, fold it under. As you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just folding it under so that the edge is neat. Okay, now that I've completely folded under, I'm going to start crimping. I use my middle finger and my left hand and my thumb and pointer finger of my right hand, and I crimp like that. And I go around the entire pie plate on the rim. As my mom always told me growing up, the way the pie crust looks going in the oven is the way the pie crust is going to look coming out of the oven. So here we are just finishing up, and that is our pie shell ready to go to be filled with the quiche. So we're just going to set this aside while we mix up our quiche ingredients. Alright, so the next step is to fry up some bacon and some onions and some mushrooms to put in our quiche. I'm going to get them all started at the same time, and you can come and take a look. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and get my onions started. I have sliced up 2 medium-sized yellow onions, and I put them in the skillet with 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're just going to let them cook until they are lightly browned, and they will make a really yummy addition to our quiche. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and get started on our mushrooms. I like to saute mushrooms in such a way that they aren't soggy or lightly browned, but more of a dark brown, almost crispy texture. Makes a really delicious addition to any savory dish. So I have a small skillet here in the back. I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil. Not too much because the mushrooms need to get crispy, not soggy. So we're just putting a little oil in there and adding our mushrooms now. I'm just using some sliced white mushrooms, and they're going to cook down significantly, so don't be afraid to put in a lot. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to the mushrooms that help draws out a little bit of moisture and seasons them nicely as well. So just sort of stir that around, and we're going to let them do their own thing. We'll just check on them every so often until they're the crispy brown that we like. All right, the next thing we need to cook is some bacon. I have 8 slices of a thick sliced bacon here. You can use regular cut bacon. It doesn't have to be thick, but this is one of my favorites. We're just gonna cook this up until it's nice and crispy. All right, now that my bacon is cooked, I'm gonna go ahead and chop it up. And this is not needing to be diced super finely, but some bite-sized pieces would be ideal here. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to crack and mix up our eggs and milk. So here I have 8 large eggs that I'm going to crack into this bowl. All right, now that the eggs are cracked in, I'm going to whisk them up. And I'm going to add in 1½ cups of heavy whipping cream, or you can use half and half. I know it's rich, but trust me, you'll be glad you used it. All right, now that my eggs and cream are whipped together nicely, I'm going to add in some salt and pepper. You just do this to taste. And I'm going to stir that around. And now I'm going to add in 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. That's about 8 ounces. I'm also going to add in my 8 slices of chopped bacon. Here are the yummy onions that I cooked up already. Add those in. They're a nice golden brown and they taste amazing in this quiche. Next, we're going to add in our onion mushrooms that we cooked. Sorry. As you can see, they're nice and crispy golden. They're not soggy, and they are delicious. I'm going to mix all of this together. Now we're going to go ahead and pour this quiche mixture into our prepared pie crust that we already have ready to go. You're going to go ahead and bake this in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit with foil lightly over top for 40 to 45 minutes. After that, you're going to remove the foil and bake it for another 10 to 15 minutes until it just jiggles ever so slightly, and then you'll know that it's ready to go. So into the oven it goes. And there you have it. Cowboy quiche. Well, thank you for joining me as we made the Pioneer Woman's recipe for cowboy quiche. I hope that you are able to make it yourselves and that you enjoy it as much as my family does. To watch my last video, click here. And to subscribe to my channel, click here. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.